welcome everyone. Aloha mai kako. Welcome to Saying I Do, Tying the Knot with Families. And to our wonderful presenters today, Morgan and VonHaden and Dana Livermont. Aloha. My name is Missy Agena, and I will be the facilitator. And I want Krista to introduce herself.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Krista. Aloha Dana. Aloha Morgan. Thank you so much for joining us from the continent, and we just hope everyone enjoys this session, and I'm just here for support. I'll monitor the chat and help out as needed. So aloha, thank you, enjoy.
Yes, and we want to say a big welcome back to Morgan and Dana. They are veterans, and they have been sharing so much of their ike, their knowledge, and their aloha with us over the years in our conferences. So we really mahalo them for coming back again to share with us. And it is my pleasure to introduce them as Morgan VonHaden and Dana Livermont. Together, Morgan VonHaden and Dana Livermont have over 30 years of experience working with families and students. Morgan holds a Master of Science in Strategic Leadership and has worked extensively with nonprofit agencies, specifically in high poverty, high needs areas throughout South Dakota. Dana holds a Master of Education in School Counseling and has served students and families as a school counselor, as both an elementary school counselor and lead counselor. Morgan and Dana's passion is evident when working with families and educators. They have seen the power of relationships among school staff, with students, and with families. As members of the South Dakota statewide family engagement team, they work with districts across the state to leverage relationships to support the academic, social, and emotional needs of students. So again, welcome, Morgan and Dana.
Oh, thank you so much, Missy. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're so excited to be back with you again. And when we saw the opportunity to be part of the conference and attend the conference, we're like, absolutely. We would love to just be part of your guys' family. We just so have enjoyed getting to know everyone, and someday we're gonna see you guys again all in person too.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the warm introduction. We are just so glad to be here. We love partnering with Hawaii and our friends at the Hawaii Statewide Family Engagement Center. So it's just always great when we can come back to Hawaii, even if it's virtually. We will be using a special presentation software for our session today, and we would love for you to join us. And I'm going to post the same thing in the chat a couple of times. So if you keep seeing the same thing, it's just because people keep joining. But there will be a link in the chat. We would love for you to click on it, and that will take you into Nearpod. And Nearpod has some great features that will give you the opportunity to interact with our slides and give us some feedback about what you're hearing and what you're thinking. So once you go to that link, it'll just ask you to put in your name. You can put in your real name or go incognito and use a made-up name. That's totally fine. But that will give you the opportunity to participate in the Collaborate boards, which are sort of like a Padlet and some other things. Additionally, if you are in Zoom right now and looking at my screen, you'll see that when you get into Nearpod, you're seeing exactly what you would see when you log in. There's a little slider on the right-hand side, and you can pull that out and put your email in there, and all the slides will go directly to your inbox, which is just super easy and amazing. So log into Nearpod. We need you in there so we can do some interactions, and so you get those slides at the end of our presentation. So with that, we're going to get started.
Sounds good. Well, once again, we're just excited to be here, you guys. So we're just both going to jump in. Well, once again, we're excited to be here. I'm Morgan VonHaden. I'm the project director for the South Dakota Statewide Family Engagement Center. And as we were just sharing a little bit earlier, I'm actually on the western part of South Dakota, about 15, 20 minutes from Mount Rushmore in the beautiful Black Hills.
Oh, and I'm Dana, sorry. And I'm on the eastern side of the state. We're actually 5 hours away from each other, so we have to drive a little ways to collaborate, but we still work pretty well. We're good partners in crime. So I don't know if we need to introduce ourselves much more because Missy did such a great job with that. So So I'm seeing here, Naomi is struggling to get into the lesson. Did you use the link that we put? Once you click on that link, it should ask you to put your name in where it says student. And so that's a little bit misleading because in this session you are students technically. All right, so let's get started. And we want to start off just by hearing from you and giving you the opportunity to practice a little bit with Nearpod. So we would love to hear who all is in the session today. If you want to put your name, where you're joining us from, and maybe a little bit about what family engagement means to you. You can just click on the white box at the bottom. You can type things in. And then you can also choose images if you want by doing a little Google search. So if you want to share how you're feeling or a picture that demonstrates how you feel about family engagement, that's totally okay too. So we'll give you a few moments to share in the chat.
I always think this is one of my favorite parts, is just seeing who's joining us from all over, and it's just so neat to see one of our own team members is on. Hi, Julie. Julie is one of our newest hires. She's only been with us about 2 months now.
Right, we see Angela, our dear friend from the Hawaii Statewide Family Engagement Center, awesome partner. And I do see people posting in the chat as well. If you do not join us in Nearpod and still want to participate, you can put your responses in the chat. That's totally fine. We'd love to hear from you. Here we got someone from Sacramento, all across Hawaii.
Someone from Pittsburgh.
Nice.
Oh, look at these pictures. How fun. Oh, McKinney Vento liaisons. Oh, my heart.
This is great. And you all are picking up on Nearpod just fine. So this is a great tool you can use in classrooms or in presentations like we do. You can get a free account and build slideshows and do all sorts of different interactions. So it's a great way to keep students engaged, including adult students. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on, but thank you so much to those of you who introduced yourselves and put a little bit about your thinking in the chat.
So over this next about 45 minutes to about an hour, we want to make sure that by the time that we're done together, you'll have a better understanding of the importance of deeper and stronger family engagement. And you guys are going to find out real quick that Dana and I, we find ourselves quite hilarious. And sometimes we have to talk about some harder conversations, but to also put it in a way that it's fun. And you're going to see that. So like I said, have that understanding of the importance of deeper and stronger family engagement. And then we're also going to be sharing lots of resources and activities that can be used at your own buildings, either that be at elementary, middle school, high school, within your Department of Ed teams, whatever that may look like.
All right, so we would like to start off with a little reflection activity, and this may seem like a weird question, but it will make sense here in a moment. So we want you to think about relationships, and we're talking about the dating sort of relationships, or in some cases marriage, but what kind of behaviors do you see when people are dating versus when they're engaged? What takes that relationship to the next level? What happens when you are dating versus when you've made that commitment to be engaged? What does that look like? So just reflect on that a little bit. What sort of behaviors change? What sort of attitudes change when you make that leap?
I think this is where I start to find myself giggling quite a bit, you guys, because right, we're talking about tying the knot with our families. So just like Dana said, like reflect, like what was it like when you started dating someone? Or if you're newly married, or I mean, I've been married almost 15 years now. So what did those relationships look like and how have they evolved?
So with that question in mind, we are going to do another collaborate board. So we'd like you to share something here that you think makes an engaged relationship different from a dating relationship. I'm excited to see what you all come up with here.
I love it though, that it's Facebook official. That's when you know you've taken the big step, right? When it becomes Facebook official.
Absolutely. Okay, we're seeing a deeper relationship. I see deeper relationship twice. Promise of the future, like future thinking. I love that. There's a commitment. There's consistency. More intention on keeping the relationship healthy. I love that. Mutual understanding that you are exclusive to one another and the entire world can see it. Ooh, that's deep. More commitment. I do want you to notice too on this collaborate board, I have turned off student names. So as you're sharing, we want you to feel safe to put whatever your ideas are out there on the page so no one will know it is you who is posting. So feel free to be brave and put your thinking out there. And then also I see that some of you have started to click, there's little hearts on the comments. So if you're like, yes, that is it, then you can give it a little like. And then you get a little extra. It's just like on Facebook.
And Dana, I just want to let you know, I just dropped in again the Nearpod link. So if you're just joining us, please, you click on that link. It'll actually bring you right to where we are right now.
Yep, you just have to put your name in as a student and it will take you right to the slide. So I see a lot of consistency, commitment, you know you can rely on each other. Ooh, I like this one. You're committed to problem solve together. Wanting what's best for one another, an unconditional love. Okay, being yourself and being accepted for who you are. I like that. Trying to have a deeper understanding for both people. Okay. You all are relationship experts, obviously, so thank you for all that input. And here's why we asked that question. Morgan kind of hinted at this earlier. When we talk about family engagement, we use the word engagement and we say it often in this work, but what does it truly mean to be engaged with our families? Sometimes we're just doing a few activities or maybe, you know, calling here or there, you know, checking in once in a while. And that's kind of like casually dating our families. We're not really making that commitment, that ongoing communication, the problem solving together, thinking about we are in this together and how do we move forward. So we want to be thinking about truly taking our relationship with our families to the next level. So it feels like a really committed long-term relationship and not that we're just casually dating them or calling when we need something.
So I truly hope that you guys all have a smile on your face as you're starting to kind of think about this, like, am I just dating my families? Or do we have more of that commitment? Are we having that two-way communication? Are we Facebook official? Are we just that casual friend? So that's our question now. Where are you starting from? There is no right or wrong. I want you guys to know this. This is just kind of that self-assessment. Where are you or your school starting from? So we're going to go through a series of questions, and I want you to kind of think about this, either if you're at a grade level or really truly like looking at your schools. So the next four slides, like I just said, we're going to describe a couple different schools. Try to remember the color of the slide. I'm going to let you know what the color is, by the way, because sometimes we have a little argument on the color. So I'll tell you the color that what we're calling it for today. And then try to remember those colors at the end when we're done. We're going to have a few more conversations and time to collaborate.
I just wanted to add to what Morgan said there that none of these schools will be a perfect match to your school. There's intricacies to everybody. So just keep in mind if whatever one has the most bullets that match yours. And if you see something in quotes, that means that might be something that people in your school are either saying or thinking.
So our first color is blue. And on this, it says, our family center is always open, full of interesting learning materials to borrow. We have home visits, and they are made to every new family. The activities we have honor the family's contributions, and the building is open to community use, and social services are available to families. Now, we also understand that some of this might be pre-COVID, maybe it might look a little bit different. So try to think kind of like the big picture. Were your centers fully open, or have you become doing like some kind of hybrid and making those adjustments? The next color is pink. This is pink, everybody. So the pink one, this is here what it says. Teachers contact families individually once a year. You have a parent coordinator, and they are available to help families with questions or if they need help. The office staff are friendly. Staff contact community agencies and organizations when help is needed. The next color is yellow. On the yellow card, these are some of the beliefs that better educated parents are more involved. Many immigrant parents don't have time to come to or contribute. Staff are very selective about who comes into our school, to the school. And the fourth color is orange. Families do not bother school staff. A belief could be minority families don't value education. School feels like a jail when you enter, and you have to have a background check to even come into the school. And it is important to keep community influences out of the school. Now this, and also just to let you guys know, this is one part of a much bigger activity that we offer when we work with schools. But we are talking about just that the feel of the building for this specific activity. And this is your perception. Once again, not right or wrong. And this sometimes opens up bigger conversations within your school buildings when you have groups do this together. So now the question is, which color most closely matched with your school when it comes to building relationships? Were you blue, pink, yellow, or orange? So as you were thinking about the color, and I believe we actually, I'm gonna have you guys kind of report out here in a moment, but if you were mostly orange, that's what we would consider a fortress school. I'm actually gonna pause for a moment. Just so you guys know, none of this is made up by Dana or I. We do a lot of stuff based on research. I'm sure you guys have heard about evidence-based practices. Who is that research people that are out there when it comes to family engagement? And there's becoming a lot more as time is going on and moving forward. So a lot of the activities that we do are, and we're going to share these books at the end, but are based on Dr. Karen Mapp, Joyce Epstein. I just lost the third person that I was going to say, Steve, can't think of his last name right now, but there's some amazing research out there and books that are out there. So this activity in particular is based off of some of Dr. Karen Mapp's work and powerful partnerships. Now in saying that, the first color on here is the orange, or the fortress school. The overall belief statement is that our parents don't value education. We'd be a good school if we had different kids and if in a different neighborhood. Or sometimes you also hear like a different zip code. The yellow is the come if we call school. We call parents when we need them. We set the terms and call all the shots. The pink school is the open door school. We have lots of activities for families. We keep parents busy so they'll stay out of our hair. And then there's the blue school, or the partnership school. We could never do it without our families. We work with parents and our community to do whatever it takes to help all of our kids.
So I just want to point out while we're thinking about this, because you have probably placed yourself somewhere on this continuum based on just those 4 slides that we showed you. And just want to remind you that if you're not in the blue school, which actually takes a lot of work to get to blue school, to extend yourself some grace, because just like our students who come to our classrooms every year, you know, they may be at a very basic level or need a lot of skills to get to proficiency. And what we're excited about is that movement and that growth. So what we want to do is for you is to kind of figure out, where do you feel like you are at this continuum, and what are some steps you can do to give yourself some growth, not necessarily to get all the way to the blue level, but how can you move along on this continuum and continually make growth in your family engagement practices? You're on mute.
I apologize, you guys. My in South Dakota right now, it's 3 o'clock. Kids are getting out of school, so my kids all just got home. So, and it's wonderful. So now that you've had a chance to kind of think and reflect, please take a moment to fill out the poll. Were you a Fortress school, which would have been the orange, the Come If We Call school, which would have been yellow, an open door school, which would have been pink, or a partnership school, which would have been blue? And thank you, Benita. It was Steve Constantino.
Yes, another great leader in the family engagement world. Lots of great research. So, oh yes, Heather, we'll post a link one more time.
I got that. There you go.
Okay, we both were doing.
We're like double taking it, guys. We're just making sure you guys get that Nearpod link. And if you are just joining us and you want to make sure you get notes, Dana, can you share again how they can make sure to get the notes and get everything emailed to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Once you log into Nearpod, you will see the slide, and right now you'll see a poll where you can click one of the 4 choices, but on the right-hand side is a little notepad with a pen. You can click on that and out comes a little slider. And then you can either link to your OneDrive, Google Drive, or the easiest is just to click send via email, enter your email address, and the entire presentation will be sent to you. Another thing to note is once you have put your email address in here, this slider becomes a notepad. So as we are going through the lesson and we talk about things that you want to come back to, or maybe a resource, you can put it in that notes, just type it in, and those notes will go along with you with the presentation. So in real time, you can keep track of the things that you are thinking. And then, you know, maybe this is just me, but after I'll have like all this thinking when I'm in a session, then I'll go home and I'm like, what was that one resource that the one person was talking about? In Nearpod, you can just capture it here and send it to yourself. So I'm just going to quickly share the results of our poll. Based on the people in this session, about 25% of you felt like you had an open door school. About 18% said Come If We Call, about 7 said partnership, and 0 said Fortress school. That's great. So, which means, you know, even if you are in the blue, you're in the partnership school zone, you can always be looking for ways to improve on your practices or get a little bit stronger. And then if you are in the Come If We Call or open door, we'll also be thinking about how can you move to the next level.
And I think part of it is even just knowing where you're starting at, to having those conversations with your teams. And I would love to know, did this surprise you? So once again, another Collaborate board, so you guys can start sharing a little bit more. And if you didn't have a chance to share in the poll, take a moment and reflect, like, did it surprise you that you, well, I guess none of you guys were Fortress schools that report on the poll, but did it surprise you that you were a partnership school, or if you were a Come If We Call school? And like, kind of what were your thoughts?
So I see there's a question here. If you're in a role that works with many schools, or maybe you're in an after-school program that works with schools, you can just choose one school to think about, or maybe kind of reflect on the different schools and the different practices they have. Or perhaps if you're not in any role that it feels like you can reflect on this, you could think about if you have children, your children's school, and maybe their practices too. So you could think about it in whatever way makes sense for you. Okay. Yes and no. A little surprised, a little not.
I like this one. We like to think we're a partnership school, but just based on the descriptions, we're more of an open door school. And sometimes that's that aha moment too, like, oh, well, we thought we were doing everything that we could, but maybe there's a few more things that we could do based on conversations and trainings like this. I saw that someone's gone through the family resource training. Wonderful.
I just wanted to comment too, somebody put, I knew where we were at and it makes me sad. And sometimes when we reflect, we do have those feelings, but this activity is not to shame any school or their practices. The one exciting thing about being, you know, towards the come if we call school or even in the fortress school is there is so much opportunity there for growth. Like there's a million different ways you can go about it and you will be moving up in that continuum. So try to think about it as an opportunity for your school or whatever role you're in.
One of the questions we've gotten in the past, and we haven't gotten it this year for this presentation yet, but we might, sometimes it's, I can't change my school, right? There's other pieces and other things that are happening. What can I do if I'm a classroom teacher? What can I do if I'm a school volunteer? What can I do if I'm in multiple schools? Like, how do I still have that voice? And the biggest thing that I have to say is, you know, sometimes it starts small. Sometimes it just starts with those conversations. And we are going to give you some different activities that you can bring back to your schools or back to your teams to really start those conversations, because that's what we've seen has started to get those ripples, to kind of get that momentum, is just kind of say like, man, I went to this training and look at, like, this is kind of where we started, but look at what we can do when we grow.
Mm-hmm. And starting with what you can control. If you're a classroom teacher, starting to do some really strong engagement practices with your classroom, and then showing your colleagues, like, I've been doing this and look at the results I'm getting. It's amazing. So sometimes you can, just like Morgan said, make a ripple effect. But we are going to show you actually one specific activity that you can do with your school, which might help to create some buy-in. And it's based off of the activity you all just did. So in the activity that comes out of Karen Mapp's book, Powerful Partnerships, there's actually 5 different areas to look at. So those cards or slides we showed you were all about building relationships, but we also want to look at how are you linking your learning to home so that the families can be supporting that learning outside of school hours. Are you supporting advocacy for your families? Are you addressing differences within your school? And how are you sharing power with your families, which can sometimes be the hardest one for schools to do. So you can actually look at all 5 of those areas and see if you are a partnership school, come if we call, Fortress, or wherever you're at on that continuum in all of these areas. And chances are you're probably strong in some areas and weaker in others. And so we are providing you with an activity that you can do to kind of examine this at your school. So whether you're an administrator or leadership team, or maybe you're just a classroom teacher that says, hey, I would love to do this activity at our next staff meeting. So we'll give you the resource for it. You'll see on the screen here, it's a PDF. So the PDF will go with you if you put your email into Nearpod, but we've also placed it in the session resources too as a file. So basically, we've given you all the instructions here to print the different pages on different colors, those 4 colors we looked at. And then you will sort them. So you'll have the backside. Basically, each of these has all 4 categories in one of the colors. And then you print anyways, there's directions. You put this on the backside so you can see what category it goes to. But then you give each group, however you want to break up into groups or a team, or just do this with a small team, and you look at the building relationship cards and you sort through them and you pick the one that matches you. And then you look through the linking to learning cards and you pick the one that matches you. And then based on the cards you've selected in all 5 of those areas, then you can kind of look at this continuum like we were talking about earlier. So if you have 3 or more yellow cards and no blue cards, you're a come if we call school. Or, if you're at least 3 blue and the rest are pink, then you're advanced or a partnership school. And then there's also some discussion questions that you can use with your building or your group to start some conversation. So like Morgan said, if you feel like I would love to do more of this work, but I'm only one person and I can't change my school, sometimes having a discussion like this helps prompt people to be a little bit more reflective and think, you know, maybe there is more that we can be doing, and that can help create some buy-in to do the work.
I know we have everyone's buy-in, right? Because this is great stuff. We're thinking about it. We've given you some cool activities, but wait a second. What if I'm not quite sure? Like, I kind of getting cold feet. The dating thing was good. I don't know for Facebook official. Like, why? Like, really, why should schools do this? Why do we want to even do this?
Right. So we're talking about the buy-in question, like, I don't know if it's really worth it. Like, we have so many other things on our plate. There's just one more thing. I don't know if we have the capacity or if it's worth it. Well, research shows us that there is a ton of great benefits that come out of strong partnerships with families. And like we were talking about earlier, Joyce Epstein, Steve Constantino, Karen Mapp, they've been doing an amazing amount of research in this field. And we're starting to see more momentum around the family engagement field because the research shows that has so many benefits for students. First of all, they will get better grades. We see higher grades and test scores, even though we don't always want to measure everything based on standardized tests. They are something that we have to do. And so we see higher test scores and higher grades when schools are engaging families in the learning process. And we also see that kids are more likely to graduate from high school and attend post-secondary education in some form, whether that is a technical school or a community college or a university. They're getting some education beyond high school. And so the odds of that increases a lot when you are bringing your families in and partnering in that support. And really that is what our goal is for K-12, is to get kids to graduate, matriculate from high school, and to be successful as adults. And so bringing families in gives you better odds of doing that. We also know that kids are more self-confident, they're more motivated in the classroom, they're more likely to put effort into their work when they know that their schools and their families are united in their goals for their student. And lastly, those social emotional skills get stronger when schools and families are working together. They have better social skills, classroom behavior, and overall ability to tackle problems and be resilient. So lots of good things, research-based, that shows that family engagement really does have huge benefits for our students. So don't get cold feet, it's worth diving in.
Absolutely. And before we move to this next section, we did have a question from Aaron. Could we do that activity as a Nearpod activity? Absolutely. So one, we are not paid by Nearpod by any means. We just really enjoy using Nearpod. We have found it to be a very engaging tool because we've had to move to a lot of virtual conferences and presentations. And absolutely, you can set it up to do any of these activities as a Nearpod activity if that's what you choose. We like doing it with paper, but sometimes that's not a choice because we don't get to be with our friends. So now we've talked about, okay, hopefully have you convinced that maybe you don't have cold feet, that we're really going to dive in to make these relationships work. And where are we going? And once again, we keep talking about your school might be at different points. Relationships are all at different points, but how do we take it to that next level, right? Because now we are committed. Let's take it to that next level.
So we do have another tool we're going to share with you. It's an activity that comes from Joyce Epstein's handbook on school family community partnerships. And it's a great way to kind of gauge where you're at and get ideas to move forward. So again, there's a PDF for this. It's in the session resources. It's also connected to the Nearpod. But basically, it's an inventory that you, your grade level team, your leadership team, or even your building as a whole can kind of wade through. And so basically, it has 6 different areas to look at. How are you supporting families with parenting? How are you supporting families through communication? How are you supporting families in their volunteering or their involvement in and at the school? How are you supporting learning at home? How are you sharing decision-making or that shared power, which is the difficult one? And how are you collaborating with the community? And basically for each of these sections, you can kind of look at what grade levels. You can isolate it to one grade level that you're working in, or if you're a K through 6 school, you can see which grade levels are doing which things. But basically you just mark, put a star like, yes, we're doing that. That's great. You can put a plus sign. We started doing this. Maybe put a triangle like this needs to change. We're not doing well here. We're putting a question mark next to things you want to consider. And there's a ton of different activities that maybe you're already doing and you're like, yes, this is great. We're off to a good start. But you might also get some additional ideas about things you can start doing so that you can move yourself along that continuum. So it's an extensive checklist, but it's a great way to really start thinking about what you could be doing in action planning at your school.
The other question we get though is, this is great. We've seen the research. We've tried everything. Like we've been there, done that. And sometimes in our relationships, we've been there and done that. But that doesn't mean that we have to give up on finding that relationship or finding that commitment, right? But we've been there, done that. And hopefully, if you have been there, done that, you learn from it. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it may be. When we're talking, I am talking about relationships, but I'm also talking about relationships with our families.
Right.
Right. So we've learned a lot. And this is probably my favorite part, you guys, not gonna lie. I'm excited about this.
So we do have one more activity to share with you that is a conversation activity. It's a way that you can talk to others and share ideas. So again, this is another resource that's in your session folder, but it's called Discussion Dice. And you can break into small groups and give each group a set of dice. And basically you just roll the dice and answer the question. And we
roll the dice?
Not yet. So,
roll the dice.
Morgan's excitement is like off the hook sometimes. So,
Man, I rolled a 4, Dana.
Well, so when you break into groups, you can have some discussion, and we have done this with many schools. And the conversations that come from this activity are just amazing. So we encourage you to try it at your school, or if you are, hosting a training somewhere, give this activity a try. So we are going to try it with you. And as Morgan said, she rolled a 4.
Oh, there's my 4.
And the question for 4 was, what is an activity that made all families feel welcome at your school? So we have a collaborate board for you, and here's an opportunity for you to share and learn from each other. What is an activity that made all families feel welcome at your school? Or if you're a parent, what is an activity that your school did that made you feel welcome?
Ooh, a trivia night. That's right up Dana's alley right there.
Love trivia night.
Ooh, a leadership day.
How can I answer this?
The one thing that we're missing in the digital world that is better in person is the discussion, when you can say, oh, tell me how you planned that and what steps did you do? And you can do that in a virtual space too by using breakout rooms. We just don't have time to do it with you today. So when you do this,
And Dana just froze up a little bit. So I'm going to jump in, and she's right. So if you were able to do this with your team, you can have those conversations to say, okay, what is that leadership day? Like, tell me more. Your welcome back picnic. We hear a lot about picnics, but do you do it with a carnival? Is it part of your open house? Like, what are the other pieces that go along with it? And with Dana freezing and it's being ran on her end, I'm gonna just visit with you guys and go through the next few slides while Dana gets back on with us. All right. And I don't know if I can have Dana stop sharing. Oh, there, okay. You know what? Dana's gonna jump on here in a moment as soon as she can. And then we will keep looking at that collaborate board. But until then, I am jumping right in here to share my screen at the same time. There you go. So we can come back to the collaborate board. Dana is reconnecting right now. So we just talked about so much cool stuff, you guys. We talked about what you're gonna do, like where you're out as a school. We talked about if you have cold feet, and now you are ready to commit, right? You got over the cold feet. You are ready to put a ring on it. You are ready to make it Facebook official. So here are some different resources that we would recommend. We do lots of different book studies with our teams, with our schools. These are the main ones where we start with. Powerful Partnerships by Karen Mapp. It's a smaller book, kind of a condensed version. The next one is Beyond the Bake Sale. And then that's a little bit bigger book that Powerful Partnerships is kind of based off of. But then the big one, and I say big, you guys, the School and Family and Community Partnerships Handbook for Action. And that truly is a hands-on deep dive. You're definitely committed. I'm going to stop sharing because I believe Dana is back on. She is not back on. She was just talking to me through Nearpod. So I'm just going to keep sharing my screen. And we're good. So I apologize if you guys are in Nearpod right now. You're probably still stuck on the one screen, but you will make sure to have all of these different pieces when it comes to the presentation. We also talk a lot about our podcast. One thing that, there's many one things, you guys, but one of the parts that we heard from a lot of our families and our communities and our schools and our advisory board is that there are so many different things that are out there. What is just a nugget or that snapshot on how can I learn more? So through that, Dana and I are like, we have a plan. We're going to do a podcast. We had never done a podcast before, and we were able to just jump right in, and we tackle different tricky topics such as attendance, communication, mental wellness. Our most recent one that's going out next week is what is family engagement, right? Because we talk about what really is it. And it's not just Dana and I talking, but we also bring in our partners. We bring in students, you guys. Oh my gosh, it's amazing to have students visit with us. We bring in families, we bring in educators. So there are the podcasts that we can move forward. Another one that we have done is our road trips. So we have the South Dakota road trip. Come experience South Dakota. This was developed with families in mind, especially when the pandemic hit. And because I don't want to call it a new normal, it's a new different, I don't know, world is different, but we're still having different activities and families and schools reach out to us. We have done the South Dakota road trip. We have done National Parks road trip. And then the amazing Rural Tour, because we just can't keep it just to the South Dakota and the United States. We wanted to go big. And these are all different self-paced lessons aligned with different state standards. And then we also have different resources. All of these are resources for families. These are all on our website also, and I'll share that. So you can have access to all of these different pieces that you can share with your families, your partners, your schools. We have kindergarten readiness cards. These are actually in 3 different languages. They're English, Spanish, and Karen. And they help students get ready for kindergarten. And it's based off of the kindergarten readiness that schools do in the spring to see where they're placed in the fall. Tying in our families all the time, School 101. These are quick guides to help families understand some of these really crazy topics when we talk in our alphabet language when it comes to family engagement. So what is an IEP? What is a 504? South Dakota has a whole new set of high school graduation requirements. There's also accommodations and modifications for students. What does that even mean? Social emotional learning and more. These are one-page documents that have been developed with families in mind. And then one of our partner organizations actually offers a 30-minute, I don't want to call it training, but a 30-minute how-to for our families. And that's all recorded also on the South Dakota Parent Connection is the name of that group. And then here's our website. Check us out, you guys. Sign up for our newsletter. It goes out maybe once a month, once every other month. But come check out our website. We are broken up into 3 different pillars, has lots of different resources out there. You can search it. We have online classes for educators, families. I know I'm talking super fast, but I want to make sure if there are any questions at the end, we can touch base on those. And this says reflect. You don't get to reflect because let me see here. We can reflect in our, oh, excuse me. I need to stop sharing. You guys have my whole screen here. And okay, so
I'm
many
back,
things.
Morgan, and they have the collaborate board on Reflect. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
You know, I think that's one of the joys. You know, we talked a lot in our team about giving grace to other people, also giving grace to ourselves. And you have amazing timing, though, to get right to the Reflect. So we just threw a ton of stuff at you guys in a short amount of time. And we would love to know what is one takeaway from this session that you can bring back to your work, your team. And welcome back, Dana.
Thank you. I am so sorry. Zoom did not want to let me back in here. But Morgan's a pro, and I'm sure she just rolled with it.
Well, what's nice is it definitely, we have done this presentation before. Dana and I have worked very closely together as partners in crime with the Statewide Family Engagement Center, but also when Dana was a lead counselor, we were in the same town during that time and gotten to do a lot of cool stuff together. And I love that. Let's get married. Whoever just proposed, yes, let's get married with your families, make it Facebook official. Oh my gosh. I don't know. And so I feel like I'm divulging some of my secrets with you guys today, but so we're just like, I have an amazing team and we're getting in, and they all know Instagram. I'm just learning Instagram. Is there like an Instagram official anything, or am I making that up? Is it? Oh, Dana's saying yes.
I think it is. I think younger people would make it Instagram official and not Facebook official. Unfortunately, I feel like I've aged out.
I love this. A lot of folks are saying like where to start, resources. Use Nearpod. There's even like I believe a free version of Nearpod for educators.
There is, yes.
Have all like the bells and whistles, but there is a free version of it.
Okay, Morgan, do you think we have time for time to climb? We only have 4 minutes left, so I think I'm gonna skip that. We had a little game for you, unfortunately, but we're gonna hang on. If you have any questions, we're also gonna share our email. But here, you should see a link to sign up for our newsletter. So if you would like to hear more about the work we're doing, go ahead and open that link.
And Dana, I shared with them that our Fam Jam podcast, our next one will be going out next week.
Yes, we're super excited, and it's kind of along this topic. I don't know if Morgan told you, it's about what is family engagement. So hopefully you all tune in for it. I'll also post the link to the newsletter in the chat. If you're not in Nearpod and want to sign up. And then we're just going to move to this slide. If you want to record our email addresses, if you have questions as you're doing this work or are thinking about something after today, we'd love to hear from you. And of course, we'll stay in this Zoom call for a few minutes after the session, although I know you guys are heading off to lunch, so. Or if anybody has a question now, you can certainly post it in the chat or unmute.
And I just want to say thank you to Missy and Krista. It's great seeing you guys, and to our friends and our new friends. So thank you for being part of our session today, you guys.
Yes, thank you. You all were awesome. And we love this conference every time we can be a part of it. And we love Hawaii. So thank you for letting us be a part of your conference.